Hello there, Sir from 17 once again. This is more Star Wars Battlefront 2. This is Galactic Assault on the map Jakku, and I'm playing as the Assault. I have the A280. I'm running in with the Vanguard for that extra speed boost to get on this objective immediately, and we're going to talk a little bit about Jakku, the map, and why I don't really like it. So, this is a very strange mission in an attacking and defending format for gameplay, because the attacking team, who have to take this objective, spawn closer to it than the defending team. And traditionally, in any kind of gameplay where there is an attacking and defending dichotomy, you usually get maps where the defenders can set up and the attackers come to try and overcome it. And the true difficulty is the tug of war in landing the objective and getting the defenders off it. Well, this map is completely reversed, and I have absolutely no idea why that is. And to kind of make things worse, I don't think DICE really knows how to make this work. And in their defense, this is a very creative map. It has a lot of entry points and exit points and egress, and it's one of those maps where you have to play it 5 or 6 times to understand where the hell you can go. And that's if you're even brave enough to try and push forward. And not a lot of people are. A lot of people just follow the team. A lot of people play passive. On this particular objective, I like to stay on this right-hand side of it and stop them coming that way, because I can cover the entranceway from below, and I can cover the flank on the right, and I have the most success doing that. But when we move across here, I'm not as confident on this side, because there's just so many openings and so many opportunities to get flanked and killed from behind. So I'm just going to try and sit here and secure it while my team helps me out and kill anybody who comes close, and just kind of move around and make myself a tough target. We're being contested. There's a guy over there that I'm trying to clip with my triple burst rifle here. I managed to pick him off, and then the team is just kind of eschewing around me. But this map is so strange, and to try and make it better for the attacking team, because this first push can apparently sometimes be difficult, even though in my experience defending this map is way more difficult than attacking it. And I don't know if that's just because I've always been on good teams or I've got a disproportionate impression of the game, but I don't ever feel like attacking on this map is difficult because of the fact that you spawn closer to the door. So what DICE decided to do, instead of changing the spawns and making both teams arrive on the location at the same time, and making the defending team spawn a little bit closer than, say, the attacking team, they decided to give the attacking team an AT-ST. And if you don't know too much about the vehicles in this game, the vehicles can turn the tide of battle astronomically. That's not even mentioning if you play as somebody who likes the vehicles, so you have a lot of upgraded star cards, and you have your vehicle set up to be a much more capable vehicle. Because you'll notice when I talk about Battlefront, I try to tell you that the star cards are not the be-all and end-all of everything, but the one area where you're going to see a definitive advantage is with the vehicles and the heroes, as I get caught just then trying to roll away, and instead of rolling, I crouched. And there's a good reason for that, guys. If you roll more than twice, you get put on a cooldown, and I was trying to spam roll, so it was a mistake on my part, and I deserved to die. If I'd have focused on running just then, I could have probably got behind the corner, and if the 30 tick rate server would have let me, I might have been able to regenerate instead of dying round corner from that bullet that you never feel like hits you, but always seems to do. But back into the fray, rushing in with the Vanguard to clear them off the point. We're already securing it with 6 people. I'm using the Vanguard at a range that it was never really intended to be used, but I get away with it after I'm being blinded, and we're back into the fray. But do you see how we're pushing this? Does this look like we're having any problems pushing this objective? Not really, right? This is before they gave us the ability to use an incredibly powerful vehicle to push objectives. And the AT-ST is probably my least favourite land vehicle in the game, just because of how much they can take sometimes. And one of the hard counters to the AT-STs is the planes. But you're never guaranteed that you're going to have somebody capable enough to do that in the planes, which leads to this kind of assumptive game design of, I hope someone on my team decides to use a plane right now and get rid of this knobhead in the AT-ST, but chances are he probably won't. But here's me pushing up on this side of this next objective. We're being contested. I'm being shot by a turret. I'm not too sure how I survived just then. The turrets are another interesting wave of complaints from players, because they seem to overstep their boundary, I believe. As I take on a heavy there and kind of back up, because I've got quite a few people looking at me. Clean up that guy with a couple of quick bursts. Guy to my right over there, start shooting him. try and be as evasive as I can by moving left and right, using the counter strafes to stay alive, and then I get picked off by a CR2. But that does give me enough points to play as Bosk, and Bosk is going to do what Bosk does, which is cause complete chaos and destroy everybody that I come across. But it still doesn't change the fact that this map is crazy. Oh, interesting, so this is when we can use the ATST. So do you notice that we have an ATST now? So everything that was even remotely challenging before, which wasn't challenging, is now even easier because that vehicle is present. And it's kind of incredible, if you ask me. And it stems from the fact that the Walker seems to be very powerful for no really good reason. And a lot of people say these very strange things like DICE is known for making powerful vehicles. It's just a DICE-ism. And if that isn't the laziest defensive at any point that's ever been conceived, I don't know what is. Like, the only lazier defense of an argument is I am your mother or I'm your father, I am right, you are wrong, so stop arguing. Like, you know the 100% totalitarian argument when you have no defense? I'm right, that's why, shut up. You're a child, listen to your parents, stop arguing with me. It's kind of that point, right? It makes no sense. And I feel like DICE have been shadow nerfing in this game a lot. I think they're experimenting with things and they're not telling us, because things have changed, and when I look at the patch notes, I don't see them registered in the notes, but I feel the differences. And I'm hoping you feel the same, because one thing I've definitely noticed is the tanks are way squidgier than they used to be. The tanks, a week ago or 2 weeks ago, were an absolute menace to society. They were horrific. On Kashyyyk, you could do wonderful things in the tank and it was completely unearned, and it felt really bad. It felt super oppressive, not fun, and just fundamentally unfair. Now, the tanks don't feel that ridiculous, and I don't know if it's because they've subtly tweaked how much damage they take. I don't know if I just got really lucky with a good team of people shooting it, or a really bad tank driver, but I feel like we're melting tanks now, and it almost feels like the tanks are in a really good spot where they're vulnerable but they're powerful. And I don't feel like anything is different other than the game. So to me it feels like they've tweaked something and they haven't mentioned it, and I don't know if it's true, I don't know if you felt it too. It might be placebo, because I had a game on Naboo where I felt like they'd tweaked the Emperor, because my lightning was not killing fast at all, and none of my abilities were hitting through walls, when usually they hit through walls all the time. So it felt like they'd adjusted something slightly, put it into circulation, and then boom, we were testing it out, and I was having a much tougher time as Palpatine. But then later on in that week, my Palpatine was back on par, and I don't feel like I was doing anything different, I feel like it was just the game being weird. And then there's things on top of that as well, with strange implementations that don't seem to have occurred. So, the most recent tweak to the game was based on matchmaking, and the justification for the change was to try to make the teams auto-shuffle at the end of each game, because this game has a very huge problem with teams steamrolling other teams. So what happens is, one team has 3 to 4 competent players who can consistently get heroes and 40 plus eliminations, and the other team doesn't have a single person on it who can get more than 10 kills. So the good team smashes the bad team, and everybody on the bad team leaves, and then new players join the game because they get matchmaked into this situation where they're immediately up against 4 people who are all good at the game and are all stomping every single game, and it just keeps doing that. The good players stick together because they're in a competent team, the bad players leave, and more players get into the game and get stomped, and it's a vicious cycle of essentially being bullied and not really having much to do because your team can't help, you can't help, and it's a real rough situation. Pretty like what's happening right now. I'm on this team, and my team is very competent. My team is doing everything right. I nearly killed myself just then, that was scary. Luckily enough, I was able to not fall, but it's tough getting off these pipes sometimes, so you got to be real careful, and hopefully you don't fall into the abyss. But it's so strange, right, that they've implemented this matchmaking change to make the games better and more competitive. And I feel like that it kind of worked for half a day, and now I don't see it. And in fact, it's worse than it's ever been. So the motivation here was to try to make it more fun, and the teams be more, you know, well positioned and not as just weirdly weighted against one team against the other team. And all they seem to have achieved is it's even worse than it was before. I've been getting on teams where I go ridiculous numbers and we still lose. And my second tier player, the second person on my leaderboard, doesn't have 1/5 of the eliminations I have and doesn't have any score. I feel like I'm being put with every new player who's just picked up the game against people who have all purple cards and have put hours into the game. And the purple cards don't make a difference, but the experience that they've got playing the game for that long to earn those cards makes a big difference. And I don't know if you felt the same, but I feel like I'm carrying way more than I ever did before. And I carried a lot before. Now it feels like every lobby, if I don't have somebody who can actually use his gun, I'm going to have a really miserable time working my ass off for very little reward. So I hope DICE does something about it, because at the moment this game is in a bit of a mess. And it's been in a bit of a mess for a long time, and they seem to be looking at the wrong things, because adding starfighters, the most broken and unbalanced part of this game, is not my idea of a fix. Thank you for watching, you take care now.